The great hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with the voices of hundreds of alien beings. Representatives from 500 star systems had gathered for the most important meeting in 50 years. The Centennial Defense Review happened only once every 100 years, and today would decide the future of galactic security. Admiral Kim Dae-ho sat in the small human section, his weathered face showing no emotion. His gray uniform looked simple compared to the bright colors and strange materials worn by the other delegates. Next to him, Ambassador Park Hee-jin shifted nervously in her chair. She knew what was coming, and it would not be pleasant. The massive chamber was built to hold beings of all sizes. The ceiling stretched high above them, supported by pillars that looked like they were made of liquid metal. Floating platforms carried the largest delegates, while smaller species sat in elevated boxes along the walls. The air itself seemed to shimmer with translation devices that let everyone understand each other. At the center of the room stood a circular platform where speakers would address the council. Right now, a tall, blue-skinned alien was finishing his report about trade routes and shipping lanes. His forearms moved gracefully as he spoke, and his voice carried the authority of someone used to being obeyed. Kim had been attending these meetings for 20 years, ever since Earth joined the Galactic Confederation. Back then, humanity had been excited to meet other intelligent species. They thought it would be the beginning of a golden age of cooperation and learning. How wrong they had been. The blue alien finished speaking and stepped down from the platform. The council's leader, an ancient being called the Arbiter, raised one of his many tentacles. His species had been running these meetings for thousands of years, and his voice sounded like wind through metal tubes. "We now move to the defense assessment," the Arbiter announced. "Each member world will present their military contributions to our collective security." Kim's jaw tightened. This was the part he dreaded most. Every year, Earth had to stand up and be counted among the great military powers of the galaxy. Every year, they had to pretend that their single ship was all they had to offer. The first to speak was Admiral Kekstar of the Vorthon Empire. He was a massive creature, standing nearly 3 meters tall with thick gray skin and small black eyes. His people controlled over 60 star systems and had the largest fleet in the known galaxy. As he walked to the speaking platform, his heavy footsteps echoed through the chamber. "Fellow beings of the Confederation," Kekstar began, his voice deep and powerful. "The Vorthon Empire maintains a fleet of 12,000 combat vessels. Our newest dreadnoughts can destroy entire moons. Our patrol ships keep the trade routes safe across half the galaxy." Approving sounds came from many delegates. The Vorthons were respected and feared throughout known space. Their military technology was centuries ahead of most other species. "We stand ready to defend all member worlds," Kekstar continued. "Our strength is the shield that protects the weak and defenseless among us." His eyes found Kim as he said the last part, and there was no mistaking the insult. Kim kept his face blank, but inside he felt the familiar burn of anger. Next came Queen Zesika of the Hivari. She looked like a giant insect with 4 arms ending in sharp claws and compound eyes that saw in all directions at once. Her species lived in massive hive ships and fought as a single mind. "The Hivari contribute 8,000 vessels to galactic defense," she clicked in her strange voice. "Our ships think and move as one. No enemy has ever broken our formation. We are the perfect military machine." More approval from the crowd. The Hivari were known for their discipline and coordination in battle. When they fought, it was like facing a single giant creature with thousands of parts. One by one, the great powers gave their reports. The crystal beings of Nexus Prime had ships that could phase in and out of normal space. The gas dwellers of the Spiral Nebula had vessels the size of cities. Each presentation was more impressive than the last. Finally, the Arbiter's attention turned to the human section. Earth will now present its contribution to galactic defense. Kim stood slowly, feeling every eye in the chamber focus on him. The walk to the speaking platform felt like the longest journey of his life. When he reached the center, he looked out at hundreds of faces, most showing barely hidden contempt. "Earth contributes 1 vessel to the defense fleet," he said simply. "The EDS Harmony, commanded by Captain Lee Taewon. She is a good ship with a brave crew." Silence filled the chamber for a moment. Then someone laughed. It was a harsh barking sound that came from one of the wolf-like beings in the back rows. Soon others joined in. The laughter spread through the hall like wildfire. "One ship?" Kekstar's voice boomed over the noise. In 50 years of membership, humanity has managed to build exactly one combat vessel? Perhaps they are too busy playing in their dirt to build proper warships, Queen Zesika added with a clicking sound that was her species' version of laughter. Ambassador Park started to stand, her face red with anger, but Kim caught her eye and shook his head slightly. This was not the time for emotional outbursts. Honored delegates, came another voice. This belonged to Ambassador Velthok of the Spiral Nebula Dwellers. His form was mostly gas held together by a personal force field, and his words came out like whispers. Perhaps we should consider moving Earth to protected status. They clearly cannot defend themselves, let alone contribute to galactic security. The suggestion sent new waves of discussion through the chamber. Protected status meant that a species was considered too primitive to take care of itself. They would lose their voting rights and become wards of the Confederation. Kim remained standing at the platform, his face showing nothing of what he felt inside. He had endured this humiliation many times before, but it never got easier. The worst part was that he could not defend his people without revealing secrets that had been kept for decades. The human military consists of one outdated patrol ship. Kextar continued his attack. Their technology is primitive. Their numbers are laughable. What possible contribution could they make to our defense? They could serve as a warning system, suggested another delegate with obvious sarcasm. Their ship could run away and tell us when the enemy is coming. More laughter filled the chamber. Kim clenched his fists but kept them at his sides. 23 years of this. 23 years of watching his people be treated as a joke while he knew the truth. As the laughter died down, Kim noticed a small device on his wrist starting to blink. The pattern was familiar. 3 short flashes, pause, 3 long flashes, pause, 3 short flashes. The old Earth signal for distress, but used now for something very different. The message was simple, but everything Kim had been waiting for. Ghost protocols ready for activation. For the first time in years, Kim allowed himself a small smile. Soon, very soon, the laughter would stop. Soon the galaxy would learn what humanity was really capable of. But not today. Today he would walk back to his seat and endure their mockery one last time. The galaxy was about to get a very rude awakening. Admiral Kim Dae-ho stepped out of the transport ship and onto the hidden lunar base. The artificial gravity pulled at his tired bones as he walked through corridors that officially did not exist. No records showed this place. No government budget paid for its construction. To the rest of the galaxy, this was just empty space on the dark side of Earth's moon. But Kim knew better. He had been keeping this secret for 30 years. The corridors were wide and clean with soft white lights that never flickered. The air smelled fresh and recycled, just like on any space station. But this was no ordinary station. This was Facility Omega, the heart of humanity's greatest lie. Dr. Choi Min-ho was waiting for him in the main lab. The scientist looked tired, with gray hair that had not been combed in days and clothes that showed he had been working without rest. But his eyes were bright with excitement. "Admiral," Choi said, shaking Kim's hand, "I got your message." The council meeting was that bad? Kim nodded grimly. Worse than usual. They want to make us a protected species. Take away our voting rights. Turn us into pets. Choi's face darkened. After everything we have done for them. After all the times we helped with their little problems. They do not know about our help, Kim reminded him. As far as they know, we are just the primitive humans with one old ship. The two men walked deeper into the facility. Through large windows, Kim could see the construction bays. Massive shapes moved in the darkness, lit by welding torches and assembly lights. Ships were being built here. Ships that would change everything. How many are ready? Kim asked. 15,000 combat vessels, Choi replied proudly. All equipped with our latest technology. The quantum stealth systems work perfectly. Even our own sensors cannot detect them when they are hidden. Kim stopped walking and stared through the window. 15,000 ships. The Vorthon Empire, the strongest military force in the galaxy, had 12,000. And they thought humanity had only one. The adaptive shielding? Kim asked. Better than anything in the galaxy, Choi said. We studied the energy weapons from every major species. Our shields can change themselves to stop any attack. Vorthan plasma cannons, Hivari particle beams, Nexus phase disruptors. Nothing can get through. They continued walking until they reached a viewing platform that overlooked the main construction bay. Below them, a massive ship was taking shape. It was sleek and dark, with curves that seemed to bend light around them. This was not like the blocky, practical designs that most species used. This ship looked like it was alive. The flagship? Kim asked. EDS Invisible Thunder, Choi confirmed. Captain Shin Airi will command her. The ship has our most advanced AI system. It can think faster than any biological brain and react to threats before they happen. Kim remembered when this all started. 40 years ago, Earth had just made contact with the galaxy, and everyone was excited about joining a community of peaceful species. Then came the first attack. The Korath Dominion had appeared without warning, a fleet of savage aliens who destroyed everything in their path. They had wiped out 3 entire star systems before the Galactic Confederation could respond. The united fleets of 500 worlds had barely managed to drive them back into deep space. That was when humanity learned the truth. The galaxy was not safe, the Confederation was not as strong as it pretended to be, and Earth, the newest and weakest member, would be the first target if the Korath ever returned. So humanity had made a choice. They would appear weak while becoming strong in secret. They would let the galaxy laugh at their single ship while building the most powerful fleet ever created. Commander Yoon So-ra is waiting for you in operations, Choi said, breaking Kim's thoughts. They took a lift down to the command center. The room was huge, filled with screens and control stations. People in gray uniforms moved between the computers, checking reports and updating systems. This was the nerve center of Project Phantom, humanity's secret weapon program. Commander Yoon So-ra stood at the main display, studying star charts and fleet positions. She was young for her rank, but Kim had seen her work. She was the best tactical mind humanity had ever produced. Admiral, she said without turning around, I have been monitoring Confederation communications. Something is happening. Kim joined her at the display. The screen showed the outer rim of known space where long-range sensor stations watched for threats from the dark between stars. Show me, Kim said. Yoon touched a control, and the display changed. Now it showed energy readings and sensor data from the past week. Kim felt his blood turn cold as he read the numbers. How many ships? He asked quietly. Our best estimate is 50,000 vessels, Yoon replied. All Korath design. All heading straight for Confederation space. Kim stared at the display in shock. 50,000 ships. That was more than the entire Confederation fleet combined. The Korath Dominion was not just returning. They were coming back with enough force to destroy every civilized world in the galaxy. How long do we have? Kim asked. 6 months until they reach the outer colonies, Yoon said. Maybe 8 months until they hit the core worlds. Kim turned away from the display and walked to another station where engineer Nam Ki-seok was working on weapon systems. Nam looked up as Kim approached, his young face serious. Are the weapons ready? Kim asked. Yes, sir, Nam replied. We reverse-engineered energy weapons from 12 different species and made them better. Our plasma cannons are twice as powerful as Vorthon designs. Our missile systems can think for themselves and adapt to enemy defenses. Kim nodded. Everything they had worked for was about to be tested. Humanity had spent 40 years preparing for this moment, building ships and weapons in secret while pretending to be weak and helpless. There is something else, Nam continued. We found weaknesses in Korath armor from the wreckage of their old ships. Our weapons are specifically designed to exploit those weaknesses. This was what made humanity different, Kim realized. Other species built weapons to be powerful. Humans built weapons to be smart. They studied their enemies, learned their weaknesses, and created tools designed to win, not just fight. His communication device buzzed with an incoming message. Kim looked at the screen and saw the seal of Earth's government. The message was short but clear. Operation Revelation has been approved. You have full authority to act. Kim looked around the command center at the people who had dedicated their lives to this moment. Scientists, engineers, commanders, and technicians who had worked in secret for decades. They had endured the galaxy's laughter while building something incredible. Send a message to all Ghost Fleet commanders, Kim ordered. Prepare for deployment. In 6 months, the galaxy will learn what humanity is truly capable of. Yoon smiled grimly as she sent the orders. Across the solar system, hidden bases began to wake up. Ships that had been sleeping in asteroid fields and dark moon craters started powering their engines. The Ghost Fleet was coming alive. The Korath Dominion thought they were returning to destroy a weak and divided galaxy. They had no idea that humanity had been waiting for them with the most powerful fleet ever built. Soon the laughter would stop. Soon the galaxy would see what humans could do when they stopped pretending to be weak. The first attack came without warning. Fleet Admiral Bajan Seo watched the main screen in horror as red dots appeared at the edge of Confederation space. The Korath Dominion had arrived 3 months early, and they brought more ships than anyone had imagined. "How many?" Bay asked his communications officer. 52,000 vessels confirmed, came the reply. More still jumping in from hyperspace. Bay stood on the bridge of his command ship, hidden in the shadow of a dead moon near the outer rim. The EDS Silent Guardian was one of humanity's newest stealth vessels, invisible to every sensor system in the galaxy. From here, he could watch the coming battle without being detected. On the screen, he saw the Confederation's response fleet moving to intercept the Korath invasion. Admiral Kekstar commanded the combined forces, 8,000 Vorthan ships, 6,000 Hivari vessels, and smaller groups from dozens of other species. It was the largest fleet ever assembled by the Confederation. It was not nearly enough. The Korath ships looked like massive black spikes covered in weapon ports. Each one was designed for destruction, built by a species that knew only war and conquest. Their largest vessels were bigger than space stations, carrying enough firepower to crack planets. Warlord Grakmoth led them from his flagship, a monster ship called the World Ender. Intelligence reports said he had destroyed 12 civilizations in the dark spaces beyond the galaxy. Now he had come to add the Confederation to his list. "Sir," the tactical officer called out, "the first engagement is beginning." Bay watched as the two fleets met in the emptiness between stars. The Confederation forces opened fire first, their weapons lighting up space with brilliant flashes of energy. Fourth-hand plasma cannons sent streams of superheated matter toward the enemy. Hivari particle beams cut through the darkness like deadly rainbows. For a moment, it looked like the attack was working. Several Korath ships exploded in balls of fire and metal, but there were so many of them. For every ship that died, 10 more took its place. Then the Korath returned fire. Their weapons were different from anything the galaxy had seen before. Dark energy beams that seemed to eat light itself. Gravity bombs that crushed ships from the inside. Swarms of fighter craft that moved like angry insects. The Confederation fleet began to fall apart. Bay watched as proud Vorthan dreadnoughts were torn in half. Hivari formations broke under waves of enemy fire. In the first hour of fighting, the Confederation lost 3,000 ships. "Get me a communication line to Earth Command," Bay ordered. The screen flickered, and Admiral Kim's face appeared. He was still at the Galactic Council, but his expression showed he was watching the same battle. "How bad is it?" Kim asked. "Worse than we thought," Bay replied. "They are not just stronger than our intelligence suggested. They fight differently. Their tactics are designed to break formations and cause panic." On the tactical display, Bay could see the Confederation fleet trying to regroup, but the Korath were not giving them time. They pressed their attack, driving wedges between different species ships and preventing coordinated defense. "The Council is in emergency session," Kim said. "They are calling for all reserve fleets to join the battle." "It will not matter," Bay said grimly. "At this rate, the Confederation fleet will be destroyed in 6 hours. As if to prove his point, the screen showed a massive explosion as the Hivari command ship was destroyed. Queen Zesika's death cry echoed across all communication channels before being cut short. "Sir," the sensor officer called out urgently, "Korath forces are launching a second wave. 20,000 more ships are entering the battle zone." Bay felt his heart sink. The Confederation was already losing to the first wave. A second attack would be complete disaster. On the main screen, he watched Admiral Kekstar's flagship trying to rally the surviving ships. The Vorthan was brave, Bay had to give him that. But bravery would not be enough against these numbers. All Confederation vessels formed defensive clusters. Kekstar's voice came through the communication system. "Do not let them separate us." But it was too late. The Korath second wave hit the scattered Confederation ships like a hammer hitting glass. More explosions lit up the darkness. The organized retreat became a full rout. "The outer colonies are sending distress calls," the communications officer reported. "Korath scout forces are attacking civilian targets." Bay closed his eyes for a moment. This was what they had prepared for. This was why humanity had spent 40 years building ships in secret and pretending to be weak. "Signal all Ghost Fleet commanders," he ordered. "Begin final preparations for Operation Revelation." Across the solar system, hidden bases received the message. On the dark side of Earth's moon, massive hangar doors began to open. In asteroid fields throughout the outer planets, ships that had been sleeping for decades started powering up their engines. Captain Han Yu-jin felt the vibration through the deck of his ship as the EDS Phantom Strike came alive. He had been waiting for this moment for 15 years, ever since he graduated from the secret naval academy that did not officially exist. All systems green, his tactical officer reported. Stealth field is active. We are invisible to all sensors. Han looked at his crew. They were young, all of them born after humanity joined the Confederation. They had grown up hearing the galaxy's laughter at their people's weakness. Today they would have their revenge. Take us out, Han ordered. The Phantom Strike glided silently from its hiding place in an asteroid field. Around it, hundreds of other ships were doing the same. The Ghost Fleet was waking up after decades of sleep. Back at the battle, the Confederation was in full retreat. Less than 4,000 ships remained from the original combined fleet. They were falling back toward the core worlds, hoping to make a stand at the heavily fortified systems near Galactic Council space. This is Admiral Kextar to all Confederation forces. The Vorthan's voice came through, strained with exhaustion and defeat. We cannot hold them. All civilian populations in the Outer Rim should begin evacuation immediately. The words hit the council chamber like physical blows. Ambassador Park watched as delegates from hundreds of worlds received news that their colonies were doomed. Some were crying. Others sat in stunned silence. Perhaps, said Ambassador Velthok of the Spiral Nebula Dwellers, his gas form flickering with distress, we should consider surrender terms. The suggestion sent shockwaves through the chamber. Surrender to the Korath meant slavery at best, complete destruction at worst, never, shouted a delegate from the crystal beings of Nexus Prime. We will fight until the last ship is destroyed. But everyone could see the truth on the tactical displays. The Confederation fleet was broken. The Korath were advancing on multiple fronts. In days, maybe weeks, they would reach the core worlds. Then Admiral Kim stood up from the human section. Every eye in the chamber turned to him, expecting nothing. After all, what could the weakest species do in this moment of ultimate crisis? Kim activated his communication device and spoke clearly into the sudden silence. This is Admiral Kim Dae-ho of Earth, to Captain Lee Tae-wan of the EDS Harmony. You are ordered to join the defensive fleet immediately. A few bitter laughs echoed through the chamber. One ship. Humanity was sending one ship to help stop 50,000 Korath vessels. But Kim was not finished speaking. This is also Admiral Kim Dae-ho to Ghost Fleet Command. You are authorized to begin Operation Revelation. All units decloak and engage. The laughter died as delegates tried to understand what they had just heard. Ghost Fleet? What was Kim talking about? They were about to find out. Space itself seemed to ripple around the Korath fleet. Warlord Grakmoth stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching his forces finish off the last scattered Confederation ships. Victory was so close he could taste it. In a few more hours, the way to the core worlds would be completely open. My lord, his tactical officer hissed through sharp teeth. Our sensors are detecting strange energy readings. Grakmoth barely looked up from the display showing burning Confederation vessels. Probably just the death throes of their pathetic fleet. Continue the advance. But then space began to change. What had looked like empty darkness started to shimmer and bend. The stars themselves seemed to move and shift. And then, as if reality was tearing open, ships began to appear. First one, then 10, then 100. They materialized out of nothing. Sleek, dark vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Their hulls were smooth and curved, unlike the angular designs used by every other species in the galaxy. What are those ships? Grakmoth demanded, his confident voice now showing the first hint of concern. More ships kept appearing, thousands of them, surrounding the massive Korath fleet in perfect formation. They moved with impossible precision, like they were controlled by a single mind. On the bridge of the EDS Invisible Thunder, Captain Shin Airi watched her tactical display fill with friendly contacts. 15,000 Ghost Fleet vessels were decloaking in coordinated waves around the enemy. All ships report ready for combat, her communications officer announced. Shin nodded grimly. She had trained for this moment her entire adult life. Every simulation, every exercise, every secret mission had been preparation for this battle. Open a channel to the Korath fleet, she ordered. The main screen flickered and showed Warlord Grakmoth on his bridge. The alien warlord was massive, with thick black skin and burning red eyes. Scars covered his face and arms from 1,000 battles. But now, for the first time in decades, he looked uncertain. "This is Captain Shin A-Ri of the Earth Defense Force," she said calmly. "You and your fleet are surrounded. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." Grakmoth's uncertainty vanished, replaced by rage. "Earth? The weak little world with one pathetic ship? You dare threaten the Korath Dominion?" "I do not threaten," Shin replied. "I promise." In the Galactic Council chamber, complete silence had fallen. The delegates stared at the tactical displays in shock. The screens showed thousands of ships that had appeared from nowhere, all bearing the symbols of Earth. Ambassador Park felt her heart racing. For decades, she had endured the mockery and contempt of other species. She had watched Earth be treated as the weakest member of the Confederation. And all that time, humanity had been building the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. "Impossible," whispered Admiral Kekstar from his damaged flagship. "Where did these ships come from?" The answer came from Admiral Kim, still standing in the council chamber. His voice carried across all communication channels, reaching every ship in both fleets. "For 40 years, humanity has watched and learned," Kim said. "We studied your technology, your tactics, your weaknesses. We built ships designed not just to fight, but to win." On his bridge, Grakmoth was studying the sensor readings with growing alarm. These human ships were not showing up properly on Korath detection systems. Their energy signatures were unlike anything he had ever seen. "My lord," his tactical officer reported with fear creeping into his voice. "Our targeting computers cannot lock onto their ships. It is as if they are not really there." "All ships open fire," Grakmoth roared. "Destroy these insects." The Korath fleet unleashed everything they had. Dark energy beams lashed out toward the human ships. Gravity bombs exploded in brilliant flashes. Swarms of fighter craft poured from launch bays. But something impossible happened. The human ships simply were not there when the weapons arrived. Captain Han Yu-jin smiled as he watched enemy fire pass harmlessly through the space where his ship had been a split second before. The quantum displacement drive was working perfectly, allowing the Phantom Strike to exist in multiple positions at once. "Return fire," he ordered calmly. The Ghost Fleet's response was devastating. Energy weapons that had been designed specifically to penetrate Korath armor found their targets with perfect accuracy. Each shot was calculated by artificial intelligence systems that could think faster than any biological brain. Korath ships that had seemed invincible began to explode. Their thick black hulls, which had protected them through 1,000 battles, were no match for weapons designed by engineers who had studied every piece of wreckage from their previous attacks. "Impossible," Grakmoth screamed as he watched his mighty fleet being torn apart. "These are primitives. They have one ship. We had one ship that you could see," Admiral Kim's voice replied through the communication channel. "We never said it was the only one we had." Lieutenant Colonel Oh Hyun-woo led his Marines through the corridors of a Korath battleship that had been disabled by precise weapons fire. His powered armor made him faster and stronger than any Korath warrior, and his weapons could punch through their thickest battle gear. "Boarding parties report success on all targets," he announced over the fleet communication system. "Korath command and control systems are being systematically disabled." This was another thing that made humans different. Other species fought to destroy their enemies. Humans fought to win. They disabled rather than destroyed when possible, captured rather than killed when practical. The battle turned into a rout with shocking speed. Korath ships that had been advancing confidently toward the core worlds were now fleeing in panic. But the Ghost Fleet was everywhere, using their impossible speed and stealth technology to cut off every escape route. "My lord," Grakmoth's tactical officer reported with terror in his voice, "we have lost over half our fleet. Our remaining ships are scattered and cannot regroup." Grakmoth stared at the tactical display in disbelief. In less than an hour, the mighty Korath Dominion had been broken by a species they had never even heard of before today. Fleet Marshal Vexcon, Grakmoth's second-in-command, appeared on the communication screen. His ship was badly damaged, with fires burning on multiple decks. "My lord, we must retreat," he gasped through the smoke. "These humans have technology beyond our understanding. We cannot fight them. We are the Korath," Grakmoth roared. "We do not retreat." But even as he spoke, another wave of human ships was moving to surround his flagship, the World Ender which had destroyed entire civilizations. was helpless before weapons it could not see coming from ships it could not target. On the bridge of the EDS Invisible Thunder, Captain Shin watched the battle reports with satisfaction. The Ghost Fleet had performed exactly as designed. Not a single human ship had been lost while the Korath fleet was in complete collapse. "Signal all units," she ordered. "Begin Phase 2. Surround their flagship and prepare for final assault." The remaining Korath ships found themselves herded like animals toward their command vessel. Everywhere they turned, human ships appeared to block their path. The hunters had become the hunted. In the council chamber, delegates who had mocked humanity for decades sat in stunned silence. On every screen they could see the impossible truth. Earth, the weakest member of the Confederation, had just single-handedly defeated the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known. Ambassador Park finally allowed herself to smile. The laughter had stopped. Now it was time for the galaxy to listen. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council had never been so quiet. 3 days had passed since the Ghost Fleet's victory over the Korath Dominion, and delegates from across the galaxy were still trying to understand what had happened. Admiral Kim Dae-ho walked slowly to the speaking platform, the same place where he had endured years of mockery and humiliation. But today was different. Today, every eye in the chamber watched him with respect, fear, and wonder. The tactical displays around the room showed the aftermath of the battle. Of the 52,000 Korath ships that had invaded Confederation space, less than 3,000 had escaped back into the dark between stars. The rest were either destroyed or captured by human forces. "Honored delegates," Kim began, his voice carrying easily through the silent chamber. "3 days ago, many of you suggested that Earth should become a protected species. You said we were too weak to defend ourselves." He paused and looked around the room. Admiral Kekstar sat in his section, his massive form somehow seeming smaller than before. Queen Zesika's replacement, a younger Hivari called Prince Kestar, kept his compound eyes focused on the floor. "Today, I come before you with a different proposal," Kim continued. "The Galactic Confederation needs new leadership. Leadership that can protect all member worlds from the threats that exist in the darkness beyond our borders." On the viewing screens, footage played from the battle. Human ships moved like deadly dancers through space, their weapons finding targets with impossible accuracy. The Ghost Fleet had not just won the battle, they had made it look easy. President Kang Sunmi appeared on the communication screen from Earth. She was a small woman with gray hair and kind eyes, but her voice carried the authority of someone who led a world that had just changed the balance of power in the galaxy. "The people of Earth have spent 40 years preparing for this moment," President Kang said. "We knew that someday a threat would come that the Confederation could not handle alone. We chose to be ready." Ambassador Park stood from her seat in the human section. For decades, she had been the voice of a species that everyone ignored. Now she spoke for the most powerful military force in known space. "We did not reveal our true strength to embarrass anyone," Park said, addressing the chamber. "We revealed it because the galaxy needed us, and we will continue to use our strength to protect all civilized worlds." The first to respond was Ambassador Velthok of the Spiral Nebula Dwellers. His gaseous form flickered with what might have been shame. We apologize for our previous words," he whispered. "We did not understand. We thought Earth was weak because you appeared weak." "Appearances can be deceiving," Kim replied gently. "We learned long ago that it is better to be underestimated than to be seen as a threat before you are ready to deal with the consequences." Fleet Admiral Bai Jun Seo entered the chamber, still wearing his combat uniform. He had come directly from the captured Korath flagship, where interrogations had revealed disturbing information about threats beyond known space. "The Korath were not acting alone," Bai announced, causing murmurs of alarm throughout the chamber. "Our questioning of prisoners has revealed that they were fleeing from something even worse in the dark regions, something that destroyed their homeworlds and forced them to become raiders." The implications hit the delegates like a physical blow. If something had been powerful enough to drive the Korath from their own territory, what did that mean for the rest of the galaxy? "This is why the Confederation needs humanity's leadership," Kim said. "Not because we defeated the Korath, but because we think differently. We plan for threats that have not yet appeared. We prepare for wars that have not yet started." Dr. Choi Minho appeared on another communication screen, broadcasting from the lunar facility that was no longer secret. Behind him, Delegates could see the massive construction bays where more ships were being built. Earth is prepared to share our defensive technology with all Confederation members, Dr. Choi announced. Our stealth systems, our adaptive weapons, our artificial intelligence networks, all of it can be adapted for other species' ships. This caused excited discussions throughout the chamber. The technology that had made the Ghost Fleet invisible and unstoppable would be available to everyone. But, Dr. Choi continued, raising his hand for silence, this technology comes with responsibility. Any species that receives our military upgrades must agree to use them only for defense and to follow the unified command structure. Admiral Kekstar stood slowly from his seat. The proud Vorthon warrior looked older than his years, humbled by the complete defeat of what he had thought was the galaxy's strongest fleet. The Vorthon Empire formally requests alliance with Earth, he announced, his deep voice carrying shame and respect in equal measure. I was wrong about your people. We would be honored to serve under human military command. One by one, other delegates began to stand and make similar declarations. The crystal beings of Nexus Prime, the machine intelligences of the core worlds, the energy beings of the far spiral, all of them recognized the new reality. Captain Shin Airi appeared on the main screen from the bridge of the Invisible Thunder. Her ship was leading a patrol fleet of mixed human and alien vessels, testing the integration of different technologies and tactical doctrines. The combined fleet exercises are proceeding successfully, she reported. Human stealth systems have been successfully adapted for Vorthon dreadnoughts. Hivari coordination protocols are being integrated with our AI networks. In 6 months, we will have a unified defense force stronger than anything the galaxy has ever seen. But not everyone was ready to accept the new order. A delegate from the Outer Rim territories, a species called the Kethmari, who had always resented Confederation authority, stood to speak. What guarantee do we have that humanity will not use this power to dominate us? The Kethmari representative demanded. You have shown you can deceive us for decades. How do we know you will not become the very threat you claim to protect us from? The chamber fell silent as delegates considered this question. It was a fair concern. Species with overwhelming military power had not always remained benevolent in galactic history. Kim nodded respectfully to the Kethmari delegate. You have the right to ask that question, he said. And you have the right to refuse our protection if you choose. Earth will never force membership in the new defense alliance. President Kang spoke again from the communication screen. But I will say this. Humanity spent 40 years building the most powerful fleet in the galaxy, and we used it only when the entire Confederation faced destruction. We could have revealed our strength at any time to gain power or territory. Instead, we waited until our neighbors needed us most. Commander Yoon Sora appeared on a tactical display, showing the current positions of Ghost Fleet vessels throughout Confederation space. The ships were positioned not to control trade routes or strategic resources, but to provide maximum protection to all member worlds. Our fleet deployment speaks for itself, Yoon said. Human ships are positioned to defend, not to conquer. We are the guardians of galactic civilization, not its rulers. Engineer Nam Ki-seok appeared on another screen, broadcasting from a research facility where human and alien scientists were working together on new technologies. The greatest strength of humanity has always been our ability to learn and adapt, Nam explained. We are not trying to replace alien technology. We are trying to improve it by combining it with our own innovations. The Arbiter, the ancient being who had led the Confederation for thousands of years, finally spoke. His tentacles moved slowly as he considered his words. In all my years, I have never seen such a rapid shift in galactic power, he said, but I have also never seen a species reveal overwhelming strength and immediately offer to share it freely. The Confederation accepts Earth's leadership of our unified defense forces. The formal vote was unanimous. Earth, the species that had been mocked and dismissed for 50 years, was now the military leader of the galaxy's greatest alliance. As the session ended and delegates began to file out, Admiral Kekstar approached Kim personally. The massive Vorthon looked down at the human admiral with something that might have been admiration. I owe you an apology, Kekstar said quietly. For years I treated your people as primitives. I was blind to your true nature. Kim shook his head. You saw exactly what we wanted you to see. We needed time to prepare, and your contempt gave us that time. In a way, your mockery helped save the galaxy. Kextar considered this for a moment, then nodded slowly. Perhaps that is the greatest victory of all, turning your enemy's prejudice into a weapon against a greater threat. As Kim walked out of the chamber, he reflected on how far humanity had come. They had joined the Confederation as the weakest species and were now its greatest protector. The laughter had stopped, replaced by respect and gratitude, but Kim knew this was just the beginning. Somewhere in the dark between stars, greater threats were stirring. The Korath had been fleeing from something, and eventually, that something would find the galaxy. When it did, humanity would be ready. The Ghost Fleet would be waiting, invisible in the darkness, guardian of all civilized worlds. The age of human leadership had begun,